I'm Captain Eric Hinkle of the Fayette County Sheriff's Office CERT Cell Extraction Response Team. Your cell extraction response team responds to violent inmates. If we have an inmate that barricades, we're the group that goes in and pulls them out. Our CERT team is here to help keep the jail safe. We do all the cell extraction response. Additionally, we do the searches in the facility. Our CERT team currently has 14 members. Cell extractions can be a very dangerous situation for both the inmate as well as staff, particularly when you're going into a cell that you don't own the territory. A lot of times inmates will slick the floor down using shampoo. The inmate's goal a lot of times is simply to injure one of our staff members. Our goal, on the other hand, is to go in and to safely remove the inmate without any of our staff getting injured. Additionally, we don't want to injure the inmate that the county is ultimately going to pay the medical bills on. To accomplish this, we typically look at a cell extraction and we determine what ground do we currently control. If the door is closed and the inmate is inside the cell, then we don't have active knowledge on where he might have weapons hid, if the floor is slicked down, what kind of traps he may have laid out, are there biohazard issues. We use an approach where we stage up on a door, we place a shield so that the inmate cannot exit the cell, and that contains the situation. From the doorway, we will give the inmate verbal commands and give them the opportunity to surrender. If the inmate chooses not to surrender, we then have less lethal technology that we're able to utilize to effect the arrest as safely as possible. That would include things such as taser, we have the pepper ball system, and we also utilize stun shields. One of our recent incidents that we just had was a inmate that was attempting to seek drugs. This particular inmate was able to procure a rubber tray and actually succeeded in tearing a section of the tray off and then swallowing and ingesting the rubber, resulting in us having to send him out to get medical treatment. Cell phones have become a serious problem in the jails. A lot of criminal enterprises being operated from inside facilities, so we take that very seriously. Here at the Fayette County Jail, we have a cell phone detector. We utilize this system to go in and we will scan when we do a search to try and find any cell phones that might be inside the facility. The inmates have learned a lot by watching the tactics that we utilize. They will attempt to find ways to counter our tactics. The common trend right now to combat the use of taser, a lot of times the inmates will either take a towel and they'll spin it, or they'll use a mattress as a body bunker to prevent us from making entry into the cell and using a taser to subdue them. Kind of the evolution there was the merging of using a pepper ball technology that we could disperse pepper spray inside the unit via the pepper ball delivery system. That enabled us to get beyond the body bunkers. As opposed to a inmate coming in that is cooperative, we may have a subject that's high risk, that's combative. In those instances, we'll bring CERT into booking. We will send the team out, remove the inmate from the vehicle, and we'll then escort them in and assist in the booking process to ensure that we get them safely processed in. The Fayette County Jail operates a direct supervision model, so when we have those combative inmates that come in, that's when they'll contact the CERT team. We will send our CERT team members down, and it's a far more aggressive response based on the inmate's behavior.
Parallel to sort of being on my prison journey, I also came across a book called The Law of Attraction, which is now my religion. I remember somebody just recommending it, mate. 12 months later, she said, "What do you think of the book?" And I'm like, "It's a bag of old shit. Nothing's changed." And she said, "You can't just read a book and expect your life to change. You should read it and apply it, do it."
Yeah.
My journey with the prison service and this book sort of ran parallel, and then they just sort of smashed together. And by me smashing that mindset on the landing with the prisoners, it just rapidly unfolded until eventually I was like, they said to me, "Mel, you've been in 6 years now, you ain't really going anywhere. What do you want to do? You know, you've been," and I was like, "I'm all right on them landings, mate. I love it. Don't you pull me off them landings."
Attorneys from a man suffering from mental illness say what you're about to see never should have happened. He was in the Pasco County Jail for a misdemeanor probation violation, alone in his cell when he was shot. Fox 13's investigative reporter Tina Jensen has the rest of the story and some dramatic video recorded by one of the corrections officers who was there. Tell us more, Tina.
Right, and that shooting was first reported in the Tampa Bay Times this morning. It left Matthew Trevino in the VA hospital for months, where he underwent multiple surgeries. And a warning, what happened is hard to watch. The day Matthew Trevino arrived at the Pasco County Jail, he was alone in his cell when deputies wanted to search him. But Trevino, according to his attorney, who provided Fox 13 with this jail video, was in the midst of a schizophrenic episode and would not put his hands through the door.
Due to him refusing, we're gonna deploy a Nova round.
A Nova round was created for situations like SWAT teams breaking into buildings. It's a distraction device, like a flashbang grenade, but fired from a shotgun. The company's own warnings say it's not supposed to be used to fire at humans or even animals.
There's no reason at this point that they have to force their way in to the cell. This is not an emergency situation. They certainly don't need to use this level of force. Later, when the officers file their reports, they claim that Mr. Trevino had backed away from the door and that the round ricocheted off the floor and struck him, which is just 100% false. And you can see it in the video as we continue. You can see that when he fired at him, he was right up against the door. Completely unnecessary.
Sheriff Chris Nacco, in a statement, called Trevino a man with a violent history whose failure to comply dictated their actions. Trevino has no violent crime convictions.
Were these deputies aware that he had mental illness?
I don't know how you wouldn't be aware of it. He is absolutely having a schizophrenic break, and the statements he's making are bizarre.
Trevino's attorney said none of the officers have been disciplined for the incident.
There was a finding essentially that because there was no actual policy in place on the use of this round or how to use it, no policies were violated, so therefore no disciplinary actions were taken.
State Attorney Bernie McCabe didn't respond to questions about whether his office has looked into any criminal charges. Trevino's lawyers plan to file a lawsuit in federal court. Back to you.
When I first went to Casa Grande, I was very nervous, and I'm, how do they say, prison mentality. So I went there and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this, send me back. So I'm like, I'm not gonna last here, nothing's gonna work, and this and that. And then, like I said, I started making little small changes within myself. And then basically I ended up, I kept hearing about hope and hope for prisoners and this and that. When I got to Casa Grande, I'm like, I quickly realized I can't do this. I can't do this alone. I thought I had a grasp on it, but I didn't. Because people have changed, the world has changed.
Hello y'all, welcome to Bamm Raw TV. I'm Bamm Bamm, aka the 411 Giant. Hey, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know when my next video come out. Hey, on this episode here, this is like a continuation when I was talking about the mindset of some of the police officers and correctional officers. I'm not saying all of them. You got some officers who just do their job. You got some officers who try to do their job the best they can. My sister retired as an officer. I got a guard sister that's an officer. I know many other officers who just did their job. We got nieces, we got nephews who's police officers just, doing their job, correctional officers. We got them in all that thing. So this is about the ones with a certain mindset in which I have experience. This is what I'm speaking on, and I can speak on different things that I've read up on and things that I have studied. Now, in this situation here, I'm talking about, we're going to start from the police in the streets. Now, police in the streets, they put themselves under a lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on. You understand all this here. But you got people who choose a job to have authority over other people because somewhere back in their life, they never had no authority. They wanna build themselves. They wanna either get muscles to have and be tough and have authority over people, or they want to get a gun and be tough and have authority over people. They want to get that right, that badge, that uniform to have authority over people because that's a fulfilling thing for them. They're not some is not in there to do the right thing or to police the streets or to make sure if your car stopped on the side of the road where you interfere in traffic, get there and try to help them out. Don't get there and snatch somebody out the car and slam them down and damn near kill them for being a nuisance in the streets. Your job is it's that's over. That overreaction to things tell you that there's something there. There's something there bigger than this job. It's something bigger than this job. It's an inferiority complex, or it's something that they dealing with. The need to have power over people. You got serial killers. Dude, you got a police officer that was down in ADX with me. That's what he did. He went around, tied women's up because he liked having control of people, tying people up and killing them and doing all kind of stuff. So that job is a very, very, it's a thin line that you have to keep yourself on that side of it. Because if you're doing your job, you're going to have to keep yourself, because somebody can be aggravated. But just because they're aggravating don't mean you have the right to slam them down and bust their head. Because once you get in the mix of it, now you got the lie to cover it up. So the best way to avoid that is don't do that. But I'm not pushing no lecture. I'm just telling these are some of the people out here. So you got all these officers out here. Everybody in America got a camera. Everybody got a camera printed somewhere. I learned that when I got out after doing almost 28 years. I realized a camera is everywhere. There's nothing you can do that's not seen. Now, all these officers, they train and they know this here. They know cameras everywhere. They boss done told them. They tell them they tell them at the briefing. But yet and still, they come out here and all these officers get caught on camera doing this stuff out here in the world. How would you do something that you know somebody got a camera? You know everybody around got a camera. That's one of the biggest reasons why I wouldn't do no more crime for nothing in the world. There's too many cameras out here. These cameras all up there that people can zoom down on you. So how can you lose your temper and do crazy stuff like that if you're in control of yourself? So that tells you a lack of control of yourself, that you put yourself in that situation knowing that these people got cameras. And now you take that to another level of it was a documentary that I seen when I was locked up incarcerated. I cannot remember, but the documentary, they had this professor, this college professor, he got 10 people, everyday people off the streets. And he did a survey, and he did this thing where he got the 10 people. He gave them cards. One card, you pick the card. This card, they'll say you're going to be an officer. This card, he'll say you're going to be an inmate. So 5 were officer, 5 was inmate. They put them in a controlled environment. They let them act it out. The program was supposed to go on for a whole month. And they was going to see the reaction in the different people. They were just working people, everyday people. They had to stop it in less than 2 weeks because the ones who had took on the police position was treating the people so bad. And they asked them, and I wish I knew the name, but when they was questioning the people in a debriefing, they said, "Wow, you're a housewife, or you're a baker, or you're a salesman. How did you turn to be treating these people like this here?" And most of the people answer was, it was just something about that having that power over somebody. And one of the things that was important about that was they did not have the psychological teaching or instructing to be in that position. And that's unfortunately what some of the happening with people in society, police. Now, I'm telling you this from a man who suffered from the other end of it, and also from the study that I've done and the observation I've done. Also, people don't know that correctional officers, there are a lot of correctional officers that either had trouble under police. I found this out when I had my lawsuit. and we was going my lawsuit when they gave me all the information on the officers who was involved in my lawsuit. They gave me all the information on them, different stuff they done did, from trying to run over their girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, or to pulling a gun on a girl a little girl in the mall, and all these different things like that. But correctional officers do not have to pass the psychological test that you have to pass on the streets as a police officer. A great deal of correctional officers fail that test. And that was shown to me in the information that I had got when they gave me all the information on the officers in which the lawsuit was against. So they failed that. That's why they became a correctional officer. They did not pass the sociological test to be an officer on the street. Now you take a person who done failed the psychological test to be a police officer on the street. Now you put him in a controlled environment where he is in control of what's being written on the paper. He's in control of the cameras. He's in control, or his co-workers are in control of the cameras and going on. So you take him and you put him, it's like a smorgasbord. You put him in here. Some of them have racist alternative going on. What best place to be? You're in a place where 70% of the inmates is going to be either African American or somebody else of color. So now, what better place to go to be abusive to them and to get away with it? So you got a lot of issues going on, and those issues, it will spawn a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like with the abuse in jail, that it's so much abuse going there. That, like I said, I was in restraints for 40 days. These people had me in restraint for 40 days because I had an assaulted the officer. And from that point on, anytime they could find a reason to run in on me, that's why I couldn't let them just run in on me, because no matter what, they was going to come in, they was going to try to break something, they was going to try to, so I had to fight just to keep from getting hurt. That was my point. So they psychological thing, okay, well, you done mess with one of ours. Yeah, you done mess with 1 hour, so now we're going to get you at all costs. And that's a psychological disorder that overrides the integrity of your badge and your job and your rights and responsibility based on FBOP policy. And they'll take program statement PS 55, 66.0, PS 55, 66.05 is a restraint. It's a restraints policy, and you basically, they says in big bold letters in there, you cannot use restraints as punishment. But they will take it, if a dude is making too much noise, they'll take him and they'll put him in restraint. If a dude make an officer mad, they'll take him and they'll put him in restraints. They use them restraints as punishment instead of trying to get somebody, a counselor or somebody, to talk to this man and find out why is he doing this here? Why is he making this noise? He's not interfering with nobody. He's not hurting nobody. He's not hurting himself. But you gonna put him in restraint because you tired of him disobeying you and making noise. So you put him in the most extremist form of torture. That's a mindset. Now that's what I'm saying about my association, my observation, and what I have seen with the mindset of the officers and the correction officers. And again, like I said, that's my opinion, that's my observation, and I'm answering that part of it. So I hope it was informative, or just give you something to think about when your people who's incarcerated call you and tell you they got jumped on for nothing. All right, hey, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know when my next video coming out. Hey, peace.
Surprise! Sometimes they flush things in the toilet, they hide things, but if we go and surprise them, they don't have that time to hide things, so it's a little easier to find. My name is Sergeant Rocky White, Pinal County Sheriff's Office. I am the Assistant CERT Commander for Pinal County Sheriff's Office CERT team. Today we're conducting a contraband search. They're random. We try to do them as often as we can. Anything they're not supposed to have, that's what we're going to look in for today. This is 100% for the safety, not only the facility safety, the officer safety, as well as the other inmates. Every once in a while you will come across weapons, metal detectors that we have, that we run the mattresses through, we run the inmates through. So far we've found a few things. It can be used for a number of different things. Primarily, it can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a tool to hang someone. They'll probably receive disciplinary because they torn a piece of county property, so they'll get disciplinary for that. We still have to be aware. People make things, they alter things, they try to slip one on us all the time. As long as we're on top of it and continue to do frequent searches, hopefully we'll lessen the probability of that happening.
I remember during one of my shifts, I asked one of my coworkers, how you doing? He said, brother, I trust you with my life, but I don't trust you with my life. Meaning, if anything was to happen during the shift, I know you have my back. But I'll tell you what's going on up here. Well, that's a different story. Why is there an unwillingness to disclose the internal struggles of those who serve in law enforcement? I have found that there are 3 reasons why. Again, this is my own personal experience. One of those reasons is because the fear of being removed from your current assignment, or possibly being demoted. Then also number 2 is how you are viewed by others, whether it be your peers, your counterparts, or whether it be your family or your friends. And then also thirdly, I have seen that, well, it's always easier to say I don't have a problem than to say I do have a problem. How can a peace officer be a peace officer if he or she cannot find peace? How do we fix this problem? I think the first step is just reflection. To some people that may be meditating, some people it may be faith.
So what is prison like for a cop?
As a cop, you're the #1 target in the prison.
The COs don't protect you?
The COs don't protect anybody. You protect yourself. I had to step to a few people. Every day was tough.
Were there people that wanted to take you out because you were a cop?
Everybody in some way wants to have some type of knowledge, interaction, or ability to use